Hi, I'm Lynn Collins-Maillet, co-founder of the Lily Mae Francis Foundation. Thank you so much for agreeing to participate in our interview on depression. And if you can introduce yourself.
I'm Jair. I'm 26. I live in Fairburn, Georgia.
Okay, thank you so much, Jair, for participating. I'm going to jump into the questions, okay?
All right.
What is your definition of depression?
I feel like depression is mm, mm, depression is feeling sad and not knowing why well, not even sad. It's just feeling down without knowing why you're feeling like that.
Okay. And do you think most people experience depression from time to time?
I feel like everybody goes through depression. Whether they know it or not. Yeah.
Okay. Do you experience depression? And if so, how do you cope?
I honestly don't know. I don't know if it's depression or not because I feel like depressed people can't get their self out of that feeling. But me, usually, I just feel like it's right now. I talk, I talk to myself a lot. So I feel like you talk to yourself, well, depending on how you talk to yourself, I talk to myself greatly all the time. I feel like not that I'm above people, but I feel like I'm one of the greatest people to ever exist. So I feel like you can always just talk yourself out of it.
Okay. And do you think enough attention and focus is given to mental illness, and why?
Not at all, because in the real world, nobody really cares about how you feel. Like you got sick days, work, but you don't have mental health days. So like you can't call in and say I'm not feeling it today, but you can call in and say I'm sick, and they'll let it slide.
Mhm. Well, and isn't so that's why I guess it's called mental illness, right? So you can use a sick day for a mental health day, right? To
Yeah,
reset your mind and reset yourself.
you can't tell them it's mental,
Yeah,
they physical.
yeah, for sure. But you can say I'm not feeling well today.
Right,
And that
right.
would still be the truth, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If you had a friend or loved one experiencing depression or signs of mental illness, what advice would you give?
I personally think there's no advice because I don't like advice per se. Yeah, you can talk somebody, you can make them feel better, but you never truly know how they're feeling.
Mhm. The extent of how bad they feel.
Yeah, what they got going on, what they decide to tell you or not. So it's like it's. I feel like every case is a little too personal to share.
Mhm. Okay. Do you know where to find resources if someone was having a mental health crisis?
Yeah, there's always well, I know the resources for suicide, the suicide hotline, but not always suicide.
Absolutely.
Sometimes
Absolutely.
it's just I don't know, just feeling bad. I don't know. Talk to somebody. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and most people don't know, right? Most people only know 911. That's our go-to. And that's not necessarily what people need because it depends on who shows up. If they are equipped to deal with someone in a crisis for mental health. So we definitely need to come up with some numbers to call, somewhere that people can go, or that a person that is trying to help a person that needs to vent or just talk can go, right?
Right.
Why do you think there is such a stigma attached to depression and mental health in our community?
Um, a lot of the time, the attitude is just get over it. You'll be all right. It's always tomorrow, but sometimes it's not always tomorrow. um, yeah, that's it.
I think that there is a stigma in specifically the Black community because no one talks about it on a regular basis. We are taught, like you said, be strong, suck it up, get over it. And that's not really a good answer for that, right? And I think that the more that Black families can engage in these conversations, we will be able to better cope. I just had a person to say to me today that if people are more open and listen more, they can parent better. Learning how to parent, right? That's not something that we learn to do. I think your screen is frozen. Yeah, it was frozen for a second. Okay. But yeah, so I think that just because it's not taught, that's probably where it is scary. And so the stigma follows the community. How do you think we can start having regular conversations as it pertains to mental health in general?
Mm, I honestly don't think there is a way.
Hmm.
Um, People don't want to talk about in a. I say there's a family gathering or whatever. Nobody wants to be the downer at the party, so it's like you can't really speak to anybody. Not even at a party. You don't want to always be the one calling somebody to talk about your problems.
And I think that keeps people from sharing though their trouble, and because we all have trouble. And so if everybody thought like that, if everybody thought I don't want to be the person always talking about my problems, then nobody would get the advice, the information, the knowledge, the care that they need, because they felt like they were being a burden, when actually in actuality your loved ones, your friends, your families, your true friends and family, that's what they're there for. That's the community. The community is to be where in your time of trouble, I want to be a help to you as you would want to be to me, right? So I think that, but that mentality of not wanting to be problematic to others keeps people from talking about it. And then there's never a conversation. And then people feel alone when they really probably weren't alone. They just didn't take the time to share it with the people that would have cared to help.
Right.
So, but yeah, we actually kind of zoomed through the questions that I had. Those were all the questions I had. So, really, I'll offer this to you. Is there anything that you thought coming into this interview that you thought I would ask that I haven't, or that's something that you felt the need to share that I haven't given you the opportunity to share?
Um, Really, yeah. Fundamentally, I feel like it starts at an early state. Like you go through life as a child, you go through trauma, and all that stuff builds up, and you just carry like you don't relearn that this is not like who you are. I feel like I'm not explaining this right. Um, you just have to relearn and reteach yourself because I feel like depression comes from insecurity and low self esteem.
That's actually a byproduct of depression. So being depressed may make you have insecurities and low self-esteem, right? That's one of the symptoms actually of depression. And so then when you talk about relearn, I guess that's what people have to do. Relearn how to cope, how to respond, how to talk themselves into feeling better about their position or their self, their status, all of that, right? And so, but that's a constant learning. And I think what you were touching on is saying that it should start early, and it absolutely should. But most people haven't got the tools. They never learned those tools, right? When they were younger. So then if they didn't learn them, how can they teach them? So then that's why there's never a time in anyone's life that they should stop learning, because we can all learn something new every day.
Right.
And but yeah, so that's my thought in terms of why people don't have those discussions early on. I actually interviewed a teenager, and she said that during COVID, a lot of teenagers had mental health. They had a lot of problems in terms of depression and anxiety and stress, and because they weren't able to socialize like normal teenagers do.
No,
Most teenagers went to school every day.
that's kind of where it starts during that puberty phase.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's self-discovery.
Yeah.
And then some of it is in that discovery, you know what? People might not like me as who I am. So then people start to hide the things about themselves that they feel that may not be acceptable to others. Could be family, excuse me, could be friends, could be anybody, right? And then that's where the anxiety comes from. So now I feel anxious in an environment that I'm not used to, because I don't know if I show my true self, if those people are going to like me. So now
Right.
I'm anxious about that situation, and I may not show myself because in fear that I'll be rejected.
Um, yes, that's 100% true.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you want to share today, Jair?
That's about it.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to participate in Lily Mae Francis's interview on depression. And I would hope that we can circle back to you at some point to interview you again. And actually, we may ask you the same questions, and we can see if you have the same answers, or if you've learned some things, if it's been some self-discovery that you've learned that has changed your idea of the answer that you had before, if that's okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much for joining today. You have a good day.
You too.
Bye.